What's up, guys? Welcome back to a brand new video, and today we're going to be doing the Q&A once again. We're back. As always, comment your questions for next week. I'm going to put a timestamp in the description so you guys could just follow along, see what questions you like, see what questions you don't. And without further ado, let's get into this real quick. Question comes from Tarian Morale. Do you think Masvidal will become a fan favorite again, or is his 5 minutes of fame over? No, I think it really depends on Masvidal. I think if he's able to win a couple more fights, I think he'll easily be back in that conversation. Same with Conor. If any superstars start winning again, even 2 fights in a row, then we're talking, oh, maybe they deserve a title shot. Even if it's like one spectacular showing, we might be talking about a title shot. I mean, that's how big the star power is. So it really is up to Masvidal. Do I think it's likely? No. I think Masvidal's career is near an end. I think he's almost 40. I think 2019 was going to be his peak, and I think slowly we're going to see his pay-per-view sales go down just because he isn't really active. The guy hasn't fought since March. He didn't really take too much damage in that fight. He should have fought Gilbert Burns, but Jen, I mean, when you look at welterweight, you got guys like Shavkat coming up, and then people that are already up there, Hamza, Colby has already lost to, Usman he's already lost to, Leon will probably lose to, Gilbert will probably lose to. I mean, there's killers. Just don't see it happening. And your bra asks, how old are you? This one's going to be real quick. I'm 19. Some people in the comments think I'm 14, 13. I know I look young. I know I got that baby face. But the truth is, I'm 19 years old. Who do you think has the best chance of becoming a double champion? Me personally, I think Islam. I would have to agree. I'd have to say Islam or Alex Pereira if Alex Pereira just for some reason jumped in that title fight. I feel like no one is thinking all the awesome possible fights that could happen if Volk wins the lightweight strap. Who would you favor in Volk versus the lightweight top 10? Alexander Volkanovski is a guy that constantly gets slept on, in my opinion, including myself. But to answer your question, who do I think? I mean, Dustin and him would be a good fight. I think Dustin beats him. I think it's just the size, man. I mean, Volkanovski is such a small guy for lightweight. I don't know if he'll do too well. I mean, look at Conor McGregor when he came up. And then look at Alexander Volkanovski. I mean, look at the difference there. I think we're going to be able to answer this question more when we see how he does against Islam. Even if he loses, we'll get some answers. How well does he do? Can he take those shots, etc.? Next question comes from SRT Kyle. We saw that in the past, Lesnar and Ngannou have had words against each other. How do you see a fight play out, say with both their primes or with their current versions of themselves? Well, I think if we're talking current versions, I think Ngannou easily wins because, Brock Lesnar hasn't done MMA in God knows how long. Prime for prime, I mean, I think Ngannou right now is in his prime. I mean, Ngannou's last fight was definitely showed improvement. And if we're talking about Lesnar's prime, we'd have to say around the time of UFC 100. I don't know. I mean, Ngannou, it's always hard to predict an Ngannou fight. I think skill for skill, Ngannou does have those wrestling problems, so as crazy as it sounds, maybe I'd give it to Lesnar, but you never know what Ngannou's power. So honestly, like I said, skill for skill, maybe Lesnar, but I don't know, I could see Ngannou too because MMA has evolved so much that he probably has learned a lot more. Also, Ngannou is freakishly strong, but so is Brock Lesnar. I mean, Brock Lesnar has been on that secret juice for a while, so let's not pretend he's freakishly strong, so it's hard to predict. Wayne Thunder 11 asks, what should happen to Dana White after he slapped his missus? Obviously, for those of you that don't know, I didn't want to make a video on its own about it, but Dana White, obviously, he slapped his wife on New Year's Eve. I think Dana so far has handled it pretty well, coming out and saying, yeah, I did this, and it helps that the UFC is on break, and it helps that there isn't a pay-per-view next week or something like that. I don't know, it's kind of a tough issue because at the same time it really shouldn't affect, I don't know, it's kind of hard. I think he's really got to just F the media, F what people say, and if he truly cares, work on it himself. If he truly cares, maybe he shouldn't honestly take off. He shouldn't care because at the end of the day, taking off is a public move. I mean, the only reason people take off is for a public persona. The only reason people take a break is for, Dana White isn't going to be 24/7 working on his marriage in between the next few pay-per-views. No, it's just for public persona. I think it's a little disturbing to me that the UFC and ESPN and Endeavor and TBS, they all have not said anything about this. They're trying to sweep this under the rug. I mean, how many times have we seen people crucified for even lesser things? I don't think he's the evil of all evil. And look, if he's genuinely serious and it seemed like his response was like, hey man, this was alcohol fueled, and look, alcohol could play a big role in this. And also, he was probably angry. She slapped him, and I'm not trying to blame anybody at all. I'm not trying to blame his wife. Look, obviously it's a very tricky situation, which is why I'm kind of carefully navigating it. But yeah, that's what I think about it. Apollo YT asks, your top 5 underrated active fighters. Might be some recency bias because there's been news come out about them, but Adrian Yanez, Kevin Holland, Arnold Allen, Alexandra Pantoja, Marvin Vettori, I'm gonna go for the last one. And Harry T asks, what do you think the biggest MMA what if is? Personally, mine would be, what if Ben Askren was patient? No BMF, Ben probably beats Jorge and possibly beats Usman or GSP. The first thing, I think it's a little harsh to assume that he beats Usman and GSP. Let's slow down there. In terms of rushing, I mean, in theory, really, Jorge Masvidal was a fight that Ben Askren was supposed to win at. I mean, let's not pretend that at the time Jorge was this hyped guy. I mean, Jorge was definitely a guy at the end of his career. Askren was the favorite, and let's be real. I mean, Jorge won by kind of just this fluke thing, and it was the first loss of Ben Askren's career. But if he won that fight, he definitely would have been fighting against Usman. That is definitely the biggest what if. But first of all, let's talk about what is the biggest what if of all time. And I do actually think about that a lot. I do think about your what if a lot. I would say probably like, what if Cain Velasquez didn't have so many injuries, you know, keeping him out? I genuinely think he might have been considered the greatest heavyweight of all time. All right, what is your favorite MMA art? Like boxing, Muay Thai, BJJ, etc. I mean, I like doing jiu-jitsu. I like boxing, obviously, as you guys know. I like kickboxing. I like to watch Karate Combat too. I've been watching that lately. That's pretty entertaining. I like Muay Thai too. What's your thoughts on Henry C possibly wasting his prime for more money? Would you say he left when things in the bantamweight were getting more talent? Could have he fought Volk at 145? Yes, I think that there's no argument here, man. I mean, bantamweight is at an all-time high. I mean, it is stacked, this division, from bottom to top. And if Henry Cejudo was able to defend his belt up until now, that would have been super, super impressive, and he definitely would have been in there in the GOAT conversation. I mean, there is killers there, and if he comes back and beats him, that's even more impressive. But Henry Cejudo was like 35, man, so yes, I do think that he wasted his prime chasing money, and I think doing this whole retirement thing just for more money from the UFC. Now, could he have beaten Volk at 145? I don't think so. I think he is way too small for Volk. I think Volk is going to have enough strength to defend the wrestling. Nighthawk asks, what's your views on cross-promotion / combat sports fights? So I actually answered this in a Q&A before, so I'm going to keep it short. Like I said before, you know, I talked about the Bellator Rising event, you know, that went down. Cross promoting can be good and it can be bad. You know, it's good, but it's also risky because if your guys loses to the other organization, you look like a clown. You know, if the UFC had a cross promotion, let's just say with Bellator, and the Bellator guys beat the UFC, automatically the UFC is now shit, you know, and Bellator is the greatest organization. Conflict Theory asks a lot of questions, so we're going to get into one at one. I'm a big Izzy fan, and I'm wondering in what ways could you see Israel Adesanya beating Alex Poitin? I think we saw Izzy have a lot of grappling success in the third round, and I think that's the game plan. Mix it up, go to the ground. I think the reason that he kept it standing so long was because I think Izzy's ego got in the way. I mean, Izzy wants to be the better kickboxer. He already lost twice in kickboxing. He wants to be able to prove, I could stand with this guy. But the size and the power of Alex is just, I think, in my opinion, too great for Izzy, and I think he's got to take this to the ground. What style matchup can beat Islam at lightweight? I'm not a fan of him overall right now, and other than Dariush, what type of fighter do you think pairs well against Islam's style? Honestly, I think Charles. I mean, Charles has the grappling. Rewatching the fight, I do agree that he did have his moments. I mean, Charles, if he didn't get dropped, I don't know if Islam would have been able to finish him on the ground because he wasn't really able to get past the full guard position from Charles. And it might have been a 50-45 decision for Islam, but you never know if Charles could have caught Islam. I mean, Islam did look a little backed up in a few paces, worried about what was coming at him. Charles is a guy that isn't afraid to go on the ground, so I would say Charles. But Charles' problem is he just gets hit so much. I mean, that's always been his problem, and he just got dropped from Islam bad, and he just got submitted there, and that's what you got to watch out for. All right, next. Do you think women deserve more recognition in the fighting game? Yeah, I mean, I think that the UFC has to invest a little bit more in the women's division and get better women out there because I think there are better women MMA fighters. I think a lot of people say women MMA is dead and women MMA is not good, but it is good. I mean, we see with the strawweight division specifically, that division is thriving. I mean, we have Zhang Weili, Rose Namajunas, Carla Esparza, even though a lot of people hate Carla Esparza because of that fight. Carla Esparza is also very good. Marina Rodriguez, even though she just lost her fight. Amanda Lemos. My point is that there's a lot of girls in that division that are high level. I mean, we have the fight with Talia Santos and Erin Blanchfield coming up. We have Cassie O'Neill also fighting Jennifer Maia. Valentina Shevchenko obviously at the head of the division. I feel like we're getting there with flyweight, and I feel like bantamweight is specifically the one that's lacking. I mean, Juliana Pena just beat Amanda Nunes, and Juliana Pena isn't very good at all. Really invest more in that 145 division because there are some killers at 145. Kayla Harrison, even though she is not a free agent right now, would be a killer in a 145 division. Larissa Pacheco, who just beat Kayla Harrison, would also be a very good opposition for Amanda Nunes at 145. Final one from this guy. What got you into fighting / UFC? What are some of your favorite fighters and styles? Do you remember the time that clicked for you when you watched someone fight and you got hooked? And lastly, who is your top 2 fighters right now and why? So first I want to answer this a little out of order. My favorite fighting style is easily Jiu-Jitsu and Muay Thai. I mean, we've seen Charles Oliveira, Anderson Silva. I mean, those guys are badass dudes, and I fuck with them every time. Now, to answer your question, what got me into UFC? I watched Nate Diaz versus Conor McGregor 2, and that was the time that clicked Oh my god, that's such a great fight. You know, the whole backstory behind it. Conor McGregor's hype before that, Nate Diaz with the upset, and then Conor learning from his mistakes and going back in there a better fighter and beating Nate Diaz. That was the time that clicked for me that I was a UFC fan. Now for my top 2 favorite fighters right now, I'd have to go Kevin Holland, Charles Oliveira, prime BJ Penn, and prime Khabib. I think this was a comment under my video where I talked about Patty and Khabib, but I was going to mention that really BJ Penn is the only opposition if we're talking about greatest lightweight of all time. But I think when you look at the fight with GSP, I think you got to say that Khabib wins. Khabib is a big lightweight. BJ Penn, so yes, I think that prime Khabib would have won. Great vid. Question: who do you think will win, Conor versus Chandler? I think Conor wins by knockout. I think Chandler is so reckless when he gets in there. I mean, we saw with the Dustin Poirier fight. I mean, obviously Conor's very good at striking. He's very good at boxing, and I think that if Chandler doesn't shoot right away, I think that Conor McGregor wins, and he most likely. I didn't even realize, but that was the last question. I hope you guys enjoyed this Q&A. Please leave a like if you did. Let me know any questions you want for next week, next Thursday. Every Thursday, Q&As. This is the 4th one, I believe. Yes, it's the 4th one. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please leave a like if you did, and I'll see you guys in the next one.